Hello, good morning. Welcome to the gateway into Gondor, Middle Earth. Only joking. It's about 10:15 on Tuesday the 23rd of December and I'm on the outskirts of Frome. Behind those towers is a big estate called Orchardleigh. Those gates are normally locked. I suspected they would be today, which is why I'm going to deviate and come in through the south entrance, which is the public entrance. Orchardleigh then is this huge big landscaped estate. It's got some lakes in it. I alluded to it in my last video. There's lakes in there, and one of them, Orchardleigh, has got an island, and there's a 13th century church in there which the public have got access to, so that's where we're headed. Just a little bit of context where we are. I'm about 12 miles south of my hometown of Bath. I'm just north of the Somerset town of Frome, and in between there's this big estate called Orchardleigh. To put it simply, if you imagine a clock face, this is 12 o'clock, the north entrance. I'm going to go down to 6 o'clock on the clock face, the southern entrance. There is another entrance round about 3 p.m. on the clock face, the east entrance, but that is a footpath, and I imagine that's going to be very muddy and boggy. I just think it's just easier to go a couple more miles coming from the south. So that's what we're doing. So we start dropping down instantly, and we're going to run alongside the River Frome and cross it shortly. There's a lovely old mill down here. Stop and talk to you there. So the estate is over to our right. Here we are at Mill House. Gosh, the water's very high, as you can imagine, with all the rain we've had in the UK recently. I'm just looking over at it from Mill House. I'm trying out an experiment on this video. I've changed my camera settings. I normally film in 2.7K resolution at 60 frames a second, but today I'm reducing it down to 30 frames a second. Both the camera I'm talking to now, my chest mounted camera, and my phone, I've dialed them down to 30 frames a second. It seems to be a contentious issue, but I was reading this article by a professor of filmmaking in America somewhere, and he said there's no need for the average person to film at a high frame rate, stick to 30. So I've always thought, well, 60, the more frames the better really, especially as a lot of my shots are moving on the bike. So I don't know whether you'll spot the difference, whether I'll spot it, we'll see. And I film in 2.7K resolution because my phone just can't really handle the 4K. There's not enough storage on it sometimes. So I do keep it in high definition, but 2.7K, 30 frames a second, we'll see. I always listen to feedback. I'm happy to learn from other people's experience and expertise. Somebody said to me recently, the definition on their TV when they're watching my videos weren't great, and he sort of said you may need to increase your bit rate. So if it gets brighter later on, I'll switch the camera up to 10 bit, but as I understand it, that's not a good idea to do in low light. I have used it a few times before, but me personally, I couldn't see the difference, but I watched my videos on a phone, so maybe on a TV it may be different. Anyway, that's today's experiment. Just going to go down here, there's a bridge over there, we're going to cross the Frome, intersect a road into Frome, turn right, and then immediate right, and then we're going to start skirting round, basically around the edge of the estate, and we're going to come in through the south gate. I'll see you down at the south gate. The other thing about the frame rate I should have mentioned is, on my editing app, I use the Light Cut editing app as recommended by DJI, and because both my action cameras are DJI, the Action 2 and the Action 3, just makes sense. And they only give you 2 frame rate resolutions, 30 or 60 on the editing suite. They only give you the 30 or the 60 option. You just drag the slider bar across to choose whichever you want. But I am told it's really important, if you film at 30, you've got to edit in 30 and save it at 30, and vice versa with 60. Again, if people have different opinions, feel free and welcome to make suggestions. I've never really got too hung up on the technical side of it. I just like more the creative side of it, sharing beautiful places. I've never watched my own videos on TV. I don't know how to be honest. I don't even know if my TV is compatible. That's how technically illiterate I am. Here we are onto Orchardleigh Estate, the Golf and Country Club, Elmhay Park. There's a Peacock restaurant. I think there's also accommodation in there as well. So that's the main entrance, the Orchardleigh Estate, gatehouses there. So the public have got right to go there to look at the church. You've got to stick to the designated tracks and paths. So I did take a track up there. It said no through road, but my route plan had suggested I might get through there, but it just looked really, really muddy. And again, I don't want to get covered in mud today. So when I rode with Bath Cycling Club in the 1980s and 1990s, we used to come back from Bath this way. We'd do a big loop down south of Frome, stop and have coffee at Frome. Then we would cut through there and we would emerge to that other entrance where I started the video. And then I believe what happened was they got New Age travellers started to set up camp in there, and it probably cost them a shed load of money to evict them. They just kept the gate locked after that, and who can blame them? We're at the south entrance, going to go halfway up through the estate, and then there'll be a sign just saying to the church, and then you go down the track. There we are. No cyclists, it says. If I got stopped, I'll just say I'm heading for the church. I didn't spot the no cyclist sign before because I'd come in from the north entrance and I'd ridden out that way, so I passed it from behind. Oh, car coming behind, pull in and let him go. It's quite a drag up this way, which is why I'm just pulling in, letting any passing vehicles go. Hi, I'm just going to church if that's okay. Okay, thanks. That chap just said hello, and I was with his dog. He looked quite distinguished actually. Wonder if it's the owner. I just said I'm just going to church if that's okay, and he just put his thumb up. You'll tell from the wind noise on their video probably. There's moderate wind, 9-10 miles an hour. It's from the northeast, so it's nippy and I'm riding into it. We've come up onto like a shelf, so it's a bit easier, and now got to look out for the sign down to the church, because according to my Garmin we're almost opposite it. We're passing the Wood Lodge Keeper's Cottage. Even around the edge of the estate, you know, when I came down by the mill at Oldford, you could see lots of references to it, estate cottages, that sort of thing. We're on this elevated plateau almost, and it's sloping off down to the right, back down to the River Frome, which is obviously what's feeding the lakes. So we're looking for a track down there. It's been a while since I've been here actually. Oh, we're entering the golf course, look. I've got a feeling I might have seen the sign up there. So literally we're just going to go off the edge of a cliff almost. Let's see what this says. Church, yeah. Christmas party. Well, I might not have it to ourselves today. Last time I came on a summer day, I just had the whole place to myself. So yeah, the point of reference to look out for is that cottage over there on the right hand side, and then this one on the left. Still going on, I think, yeah. Don't particularly want a golf ball in my head. Because the GPS will not allow you to put a route through here because it's private property, it's difficult to actually get the route to go exactly to the church. but it definitely looks like I'm homing in on it, and it feels familiar as well. That's right. The first time I came here I was starting to have doubts, and then I stopped and asked someone who was coming the other way. I think we're going down here, aren't we? Where it says walled garden that way. Pretty sure this is it down there. And I think I can see the church. Yeah. I really am serious about never wanting to trespass, not deliberately. Sometimes I've done it inadvertently and I've always apologised and people have been okay normally. But it always concerns me. I don't want a nice day ruined out by being shouted at. I'm only human, I make mistakes like everybody else. I just apologise and say it's not intentional. I think because there's not a group of me, you know, it's by myself. I don't think I particularly look or sound intimidating. So, round through here, I think. I remember before when I came, I was definitely having doubts. Down here, I think, where it says please do not park on the grass or the drive. I think this is, yeah, there it is, yeah. This is St Mary the Virgin, a church on an island on a lake in a stately home park that's only changed hands once in 800 years. The parish church of St Mary. I said at the end of my video, it's a church on a pond. If you look at it, if you look at the diagram, you sort of think that's not a pond, that's a lake. But this is the very western edge of the lake, and it feels like a pond when you're on it. It feels almost like a castle on a moat here. So walking over this bridge, what feels like a drawbridge to the church. It says it's open every day. There's Holy Communion one Sunday in the month, and they also do events here like weddings. So obviously if there's a wedding on here, it would just not be right to try and intrude. But you come here and there's a very good chance you'll have the place to yourself. What a beautiful place. I seem to remember there's a grave of a dog here. We're going to see find some of the history. I've bought a head torch because I don't think there's any electric light in here. It's funny, isn't it, how your place sells fire when you get somewhere. I suddenly remembered there was something about a dog here. Place cells, grid cells, place fields. Just explains so much once you understand it. I've done a few neuroscience courses and it just explains so much. Just as I walked around there, I thought, oh, I seem to remember there's some kind of dog or animal memorial here. Just as I put my bike here against the wall of the porch, it says, the dog monument. The adjoining monument, formerly in the park, commemorates Azor, a faithful dog of Sir Thomas S. Champneys, which died in 1796. Azor's devotion to his master, whose death and burial in the family vault. Here he is said to have inspired Sir Henry Newport's ballad, Fidel's Grassy Tomb. So I'm not sure if it means that as the monument to the dog. The others are just grey, don't they? So you really are on a little island on a pond here. When I looked at the map and I thought I'll put it on the video as a diagram, people have sort of said that's not a pond, it's a lake. But when you get here it really does feel like a pond until you get to the east side, and then you'll see. Seat there, I had my lunch there last time. Another seat there. I think I needed the shade there actually, it's so hot. So carefully not to walk on graves. Oh, look at that holly decoration. Look at the holly decoration, wreath for Christmas, all the fungi. That reminds me of the science fiction writer, I can't think of his name now, the one that had Alzheimer's sadly. He said all mushrooms are edible, some mushrooms are only edible once. I always think about that when I see fungus like that on trees. can just hear the roar of the main road over there. So it is possible to get through here on a footpath. I did pass it, my Garmin pinged to say I'd overshot it, and I thought, nah, it just looks too muddy. The main road wasn't too bad, but even when I was trying to get in this entrance, the south entrance, lady coming out, I was trying to take a photograph and I didn't want to get her and her child in it, and even she had to wait 3 or 4 minutes before her car could pull into that traffic. Gosh, look at this beast of a yew tree. I was watching this short on Facebook the other day by Professor Brian Cox, and he said, do you know what the rarest material is in the universe? And he reckons it's wood. I thought, what? You would think it'd be something like gold or diamonds, wouldn't it? Because we consider it rare and expensive and valuable. He sort of said it's very, very common in the universe. There's probably whole planets made of gold or diamonds, or nearly so. He said, as far as they know, there's no wood elsewhere that they've discovered yet. Because it needs life, doesn't it? So I'm kind of keeping that thought in mind whenever I see trees now. The rarest material in the universe, or one of them. Okay, let's go and have a look in the church. I'm assuming that's an east window, west bell tower, south porch. Yeah, I've coming through the estate, I've completely lost my bearings, but obviously it seems quite light that way, and that seems a little bit dark. Yeah, that's towards Bath, isn't it? That would be north, yeah. The old Hippos campus getting its bearings. Spatial reference points. I have got a head torch which I may have to come and collect, have a look in here, because there's no electric light in here. Boot room, please remove your boots, shoes and wellies. Yeah, I'm happy to do that. They do weddings here, look. Weddings at St Mary's, Orchardleigh. History of St Mary's, Orchardleigh. I'll take one of those and leave a donation. Wilder, St Mary's, Orchardleigh, and what's that one says? Services. Right, I'll come back and collect that. Okay, what are we going to find? We're going to find it's locked. Oh no, it's not. No, it's not. Panic over. I am going to need to go and bring a head torch in, aren't I? I can see what's happening in here, but you won't be able to on film. Right, boots back, shoes back. Well, I've come back to my bike for my head torch, and I've brought my reading glasses with me specifically to read small print. I thought, oh, while we're out in the light, I might as well read up about the history. St Mary's, Orchardleigh, being a transforming presence in our community. I think I've picked up the one leaflet which is blank. I don't know if the rest are. Maybe it's going to be one of those days. I've just tried all the other leaflets. I thought maybe I just picked up the blank one there, the joker in the pack, but they're all blank. I just find that quite funny, to be honest. In a nice way. Okay, let's put some light on. And we've taken our shoes, boots off. I am going to keep the door open for a little bit to get some light in. Font as soon as you come in, tiled floor, circular font, wooden top with a candle on. There's a west window with a bell. Oh, I noticed there was a bell coat that's up on a rope and a chain. Not going to pull that. Wow, it's a lovely window. I'll take some photographs in here, and then I can like manipulate those, can't I, with flashes, or I can edit them at home. There's a diagram of the church. Vestry. Oh, so here's the porch font, yeah, pulpit. There's a Champneys Chapel. That's one of the owners. So they must have added on or named their own chapels who are in the nave. And then there's the chancel. There's a screen. Oh, wow. Oh, gosh, look at that wooden roof screen. That's the Champneys Chapel in there. Free will offerings. I like that. And I will be putting something there. Gosh, oh, it's like a confession box, isn't it? This must look stunning, lit up with candles. I always take my hat off going in churches. Ever since I filmed myself once accidentally and somebody told me off, and I thought, no, valid point. That's a fair criticism. So I'm very strict about that. Up the step, through the rood screen, into the chancel. Gosh, that wonderful look. Look at all that melted wax from the candle. This must just look so ethereal, lit up. Oh, there's Piscina over there. Looks like it's been covered. Oh, I'm not going to... Yeah, Piscina in there. Oh, it says a Piscina, look. Wall carved for washing communion vessels. Candle there. St Matthew, St Andrew. No reredos really, although there's these corbels. I imagine you would call them corbels. Top of these pillars, ornamental carvings. Lovely purpley velvety curtain as a reredos. Oh gosh, that looks like a Christmas box, doesn't it? I just want to open that. I wonder what went in there, and I wonder why they've adored it. Look, even a latch for a bolt there. St Matthew, St Simon. So it looks like there was a Norse door maybe. I wander around and have a look. Oh, is that the vestry in there? Oh yes, there's a Norse door. That would be for the clergy to come in. Choir seats. Wow. What a beautiful place to come just before Christmas. Holy, holy, holy. It's actually quite nice walking around in bare feet. Okay, so they've got no electricity, but look, they've got a wood burner. Gosh, how nice is that? Go outside and see where that flue emerges. No fear of birds coming in here. If I thought there was, I would shut that door instantly, but I am going to shut it a little bit more. Introduction. Okay, I'll quickly read you this. St Mary's Church dates back to the 1300s. The first priest at the church was William of Selwood in 1313. A pewter chalice from the 13th century was discovered buried in the churchyard in 1876. It is believed that it was a tradition to bury a chalice with a priest who passed away in the office. The communion cup was made in 1627. In the 19th century, St Mary's was not taken care of, but in 1876 to 81, it was fully restored by Sir G. Gilbert Scott and his son Aldred. In 2006, St Mary's was the most popular church in England to get married in. Gosh, there's the dog monument outside we've seen, the surrounds. Thomas Champion, that was one of the owners. I'm not sure if that's the first or the second, there's only been two. Built a moat around the church in 1800, must be the second one. In 1860, the manor house was torn down and some of the stones were used to build houses in Lullington. That's a nearby village. There's a nice church there as well. William Duckworth then built a new house, Orchardleigh House, between 1856 and 1858. The Duckworths owned Orchardleigh from 1855 to 1987. Now it is owned by Chris and Heather Vincent and is used for wedding receptions and golf. So three owners. I read somewhere there was only two. Oh, two in 800 years. So there's three. The most popular church in England to get married in. Gosh. I'm just going to go and get my camera and come back and try and get some photographs with flashes or lights just to try and do some of this justice. spotted the visitors book out here. I do like a good visitors book. So the last visitor was on the 18th of the 12th. Wonderful to revisit St Mary's, Oxford, London, East Sussex, right out through, Kent, Bath, USA, Canada, that was in July, Donegal, Ireland, 4 days till my 9th birthday. Oh, that's lovely. There we are, 23rd of the 12th, 25, Andy C, Bath, Somerset, Pilgrim on a bike. I'll close that, so that's how I found it, so it's probably keeping the ink from getting too damp. Okay, so as we've already discovered, we cannot get out to the North Gate. That's okay, that's fine. Need to climb back up to the golf course, head back out south. I'll pretty much retrace the route we come back. It's going to be a lot easier because I was grinding up the hill through here. It should be down here. So it's Christmas, and I sometimes, in between Christmas and New Year, ride across Salisbury Plain to go to the ghost town of Imber. If you're not familiar with it, or if you haven't seen my previous videos, it was a village down in a dip on Salisbury Plain that was evacuated by the military in the Second World War, 1943 I think, so the Allied soldiers could prepare for the Normandy landings and the liberation of Europe, and they were just never allowed back in there, so it's become a ghost town. And the army have built all these like hollow structures, you know, for urban warfare training, and as you go across, it's like going across the Yorkshire moors or the Dales. You got up on high ground before you drop down, and there's all these old rusting carcasses of tanks, you know, with the barrels sticking up in the air, and they're used for target practice. And the military don't really want you on there, and who can blame them really? People do tend to abuse it. They go to the tanks and have selfies taken, that sort of thing. And so there used to be something like 20 days a year that the public were allowed access. It's, I think this year it's 2 days at Christmas over New Year, and even then they tape everything off, and you still see people taking selfies inside, you know, because there's unexploded debris in there, so people do abuse it. I can understand why the military are reluctant to let people go across. And so there's a church there, St Giles, which is managed and cared for by the Churches Conservation Trust, so I think that's the only really reason people can go there, is they've got access to the church, but limited. I read a lovely story. There was an army officer who wanted his child baptised there, and because there's no running water, he was baptised in mineral water. As I was saying, I was thinking of going to Imber over Christmas and New Year, but I don't think I will. I've got a 2-part video series planned actually sometime over Christmas and New Year. It occurred to me recently that 2 of the most famous children's nursery rhymes are said to have originated from stories not far from here actually, very very close to each other, less than 2.5 miles, 2.4 miles actually. I looked it up on Google Maps. So I'm going to go to each of those and look into whether there's any validity or not. We'll look for some clues. So that would be a 2-parter probably coming up next, sometime after Christmas, maybe New Year, that sort of time. But as regards Imber, Linda's never been there, and I thought when we sold our car and I got rid of my motorbike, she's never likely to go there because she doesn't cycle. And I suddenly thought, there's the red London buses, it's called Imber Bus. They ferry people across from Warminster outside the station across over Salisbury Plain there. I've seen them go by when I've been cycling. It's quite a sight to behold. I thought, hey, we can get to Warminster from our local railway station without even changing, so why not get the train over to Warminster station and take the London red double-decker bus across over Imber. She's really up for that, so that'll probably be next August, although possibly might have to be the August afterwards because we've got something special on next August. I'll maybe tell you about that but not film it at the time, so if the dates clash, obviously it won't be next August, it'll be the August afterwards. Anyway, meantime, people are starting to arrive. It's so nice to have got had this to myself. I do like having churches myself. I'm not an antisocial and friendly person. It's probably just what Richard Dawkins would call pour myself this gin. Well, I think it's time to head off. People arriving. Feel I've had a really good look round, and also it's starting to cool down a little bit. So I'm just going to retrace back that way, back down through the south entrance exit, retrace back up over the River Froome at Old Froome. I'll speak to you back at the gateway to Gondor, where I started the video from. Okay, we're back at the north entrance, the gates to Gondor and Minas Tirith. One of these days I'm actually going to organise a cycle tour around all the places they believe that inspired Tolkien to write Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. There's plenty around here. Cheddar Gorge, for example, they think may be Helm's Deep. And a couple of years ago I went up to Stow on the Wold, the church there. They think the North Door there was probably the door to Durin. According to that, I think it's either the National Trust or the English Heritage website, there's plenty of places, and it kind of planted a seed in my brain. I could probably make up a decent cycle tour, 200 or 300 miles, linking all those up. He was a professor at Oxford, so obviously if you sort of take a 30, 40, 50 mile radius of Oxford and sort of think about his days off, you know, gathering inspiration. So one day I'll do a Tolkien Lord of the Rings tour. Once again, I wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you and your loved ones. I'll see you in the next week or so on a 2-part nursery rhyme series of videos.